People often say that words are just harmless vibrations drifting away into the cold, empty air. For me, words were never harmless. Words were poison. They were the cold, sharp teeth of an invisible monster, devouring my flesh and spirit from the inside out. In our world, every human being is born with a word counter-etched into their very soul. The average child comes into this life blessed with 100 million words. That is a fortune beyond measure. It is enough wealth to waste on endless, meaningless gossip over diner coffee, to scream until you are hoarse at Friday night football games, or to whisper cheap, empty promises in the dark that you never intend to keep. My counter, however, was a cruel, sickening joke, glowing faintly behind my forehead, visible only in the reflection of dark glass or a mirror, was a total lifetime allowance of just 1 million words. 1% of a normal human life. Do you know how fast a million words disappear? An average American speaks roughly 15,000 words a day. Had I lived like any normal boy growing up in Massachusetts, had I laughed at jokes, argued with teachers, or called out to my friends on the street, my counter would have hit 0 before my 20th birthday. And in this unforgiving world, reaching 0 does not simply make you mute. The moment your counter empties, a violent, agonizing brain hemorrhage triggers within seconds, snapping the thread of your life and shutting your heart down forever. So I made a choice. I chose absolute, unnatural silence. While other boys shouted and wrestled on the schoolyard grass, I stood in the shadows, digging my fingernails into my palms until they bled just to keep my mouth shut. My classmates called me a freak. They called me a phantom, a coward, a hollow wooden doll with no soul inside. I let them talk. I let them throw their stones and their insults, because I knew the terrible truth that they did not. Every single word I choked down and refused to speak was another precious heartbeat bought for tomorrow. The counter did not drain in peace. It eroded with a cold, ruthless, terrifying precision, and it never, ever went quietly. Whenever my body was forced to produce speech, a sharp, searing pain shot through my temples, like a red-hot iron needle stabbing directly into my brain. Speech was not just a resource, it was a physical agony. I remember when I was 17 years old. I was walking past the town hall in the middle of a freezing October rain when I heard a terrified sob. A little 7-year-old girl was crouched behind a bench, lost, shivering, and sobbing for her mother. Her panic was so raw it broke something inside me. I couldn't just walk away like a ghost. I knelt beside her and used 15 words to calm her down and guide her toward the police station down the block. 15 words. The moment the last syllable left my lips, a blinding white explosion erupted behind my eyes. I collapsed behind a metal mailbox, vomiting blood into the wet gutter as my counter plunged wildly. I lay there in the freezing mud for an hour, paralyzed, listening to my own ragged breathing, paying the blood price for 15 simple words of kindness. And I remember when I was 22, I was standing in a dimly lit, sterile hospital room in Boston, holding my dying mother's ice-cold, papery hand. The rhythmic beep of the heart monitor was slowing down, growing weaker and weaker. As the line finally went flat and the long, sharp tone echoed through the room, the grief crashed over me like an ocean wave. I couldn't hold it back. I squeezed her limp fingers, leaned over her pale face, and choked out 4 words through my tears. I love you, Mom. That single phrase triggered a brain seizure so severe that I blacked out on the linoleum floor. I spent the next 3 weeks bedridden in a dark room, coughing up dark blood, unable to move my limbs. Those 4 words cost me 3 full years of total, terrifying, unbroken isolation just to balance my body's metabolic ledger. People in town grew to hate me. They thought I was a cold, heartless monster who couldn't even bother to say hello or thank you. They thought I was arrogant, looking down on them from my silence. But no one knew the truth. No one knew that beneath my quiet chest, a million unspoken screams were tearing my lungs apart every single day of my life. And then came this morning. I woke up at dawn to a violent, agonizing throb pulsing rhythmically behind my eyes. It felt as though a heavy iron hammer was striking the inside of my skull. I stumbled out of bed, clutching the cold wooden walls, sweat pouring down my neck in icy streams. I forced myself toward the bathroom mirror and looked up. Glowing in the glass, pulsing with a terrifying blood-red light that illuminated the dark room, was a single digit, 10. 10 words. That was all that remained of my 60 years on this earth. The final countdown had begun. I knew with absolute certainty that once those 10 words were spent, my heart would give its final beat, and darkness would swallow me whole. I put on my heavy wool coat, wrapped a faded scarf around my neck, and stepped out into the biting November air. The fallen maple leaves crunched beneath my leather boots, like dry, brittle bones. On Main Street, the town was coming alive. Store owners were sweeping their stoops, and neighbors greeted each other warmly, carelessly shouting pleasantries about the morning frost, the price of gasoline, or the upcoming high school football game. I watched their lips move, and for the first time in my life, a bitter, burning rage flared in my chest. Look at them, I thought, throwing away hundreds of precious words on absolute nonsense, wasting their souls on cheap weather reports. If I had just 50 of those discarded, wasted words, I could explain my entire life. I could save my soul. First home visit. If you have not completed your first home visit yet, please see me after the orientation. We look forward to seeing all of you at parent orientation. We are excited for a wonderful school year together. But we were silent for very different reasons. I stayed silent out of sheer desperate survival, while Clara stayed silent because she found peace away from the shallow chatter of the world. For 6 months, we sat across from each other at the same heavy oak table every single afternoon. We never uttered a single word. We never even whispered. Only the soft rustle of turning book pages filled the space between us. Yet, without a single spoken sentence, a profound connection grew. We shared the warm, comforting shelter of a mutual silence. In her quiet eyes, I found the only sanctuary I had ever known. Then came that catastrophic Tuesday in November. The principal's heavy iron safe was broken into during 7th period. An antique gold pocket watch, an heirloom passed down for generations, along with thousands of dollars in cash, was stolen. Because Clara came from a poor family on the edge of town and kept to herself, the school board and the town sheriff immediately targeted her. They dragged her into the crowded hallway, surrounding her like a pack of hungry wolves, accusing her of the crime. I knew the absolute truth. 2 hours earlier, while walking behind the athletic building, I had seen the real thief. It was the mayor's son, a cruel, sociopathic boy who knew he was untouchable. I watched him force open the lock of a wooden shed near the bleachers and hide the velvet display box inside. My heart hammered against my ribs. I stepped forward into the hallway, determined to use whatever words I had left to expose him and save Clara. But before I could reach the crowd, the mayor's son caught me by the collar. He dragged me into the dark, empty locker room, slammed my back against the cold brick wall, and pressed the sharp blade of a switchblade directly against my throat. He leaned in, his breath smelling of stale tobacco, and whispered into my ear, "You say one word, you little freak, and my father will make sure the sheriff arrests your sick mother as an accomplice. We'll make sure she dies behind the bars of a state prison. Keep your mouth shut, or I'll slaughter your family." Back then, my internal counter was dangerously low. I had barely 50 words remaining. To stand up in a courtroom, to fight the mayor's power, to hire lawyers and explain the truth would have required hundreds, if not thousands, of words. It meant instant physical death on the courtroom floor. Confronted with the cold steel against my neck, the threat to my dying mother, and the terrifying, towering shadow of my own immediate death. I broke. I succumbed to cowardice. I walked back out into the hallway. I stood there frozen as the sheriff led Clara away in handcuffs. I looked directly into Clara's eyes, and as her tears fell, I lowered my head and said absolutely nothing. Clara was expelled in disgrace. Her family was ruined, shunned by the entire town, and driven out of Willow Creek in the middle of the night. The very last time I saw her was through the rain-streaked window of her father's old pickup truck. She didn't look at me with anger. She didn't look at me with hatred. She looked at me with a deep, shattering, hopeless heartbreak that shattered my soul into 1,000 pieces. I traded her life and her honor to preserve my own pathetic existence, and for 40 long, unbearable years, that cowardice has rotted my heart from the inside out. I reached the end of an old cobblestone alley. There it stood, a small, charming, antique bookstore with a weathered wooden sign. Clara had returned to Willow Creek 5 years ago after her parents passed away, living a quiet life surrounded by old paper, dust, and memories. My heart battered against my ribs like a trapped bird trying to break free. Through the store's glass window, I saw her. Her once dark hair had turned a soft, elegant silver, but her posture still held the same quiet grace I had fallen in love with as a boy. Clink. The small brass bell above the door chimed softly as I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The smell of old leather, dried lavender, and aged paper filled my senses. Clara turned around from behind the wooden counter, a stack of old novels in her arms. 40 years of unspoken pain, unbearable guilt, and lost time condensed into a single, breathless second. Her eyes locked onto mine. I saw the sudden, violent flicker of recognition cross her face. She took a sharp step back, the books slipping slightly in her grip. "Arthur," she breathed. Her voice was soft, but it carried the heavy weight of 4 decades of unhealed wounds. She began to step forward, her lips parting, her eyes narrowing as if preparing to ask the painful questions she had carried for a lifetime, to ask why I had abandoned her, why I had remained silent while her life was destroyed. Before she could speak a single sentence, a blinding, razor-sharp agony exploded in the center of my chest. My lungs seized. My vision spun wildly, turning pitch black at the edges. My knees buckled beneath me, unable to support my weight, and I slammed heavily onto the hardwood floor, knocking over a display of old maps. I gasped for air, clutching my chest as a thin stream of dark blood trickled from the corner of my mouth. "Arthur," Clara gasped. She dropped the books, her old resentment vanishing in an instant, and rushed around the counter, dropping to her knees beside my trembling body. "Arthur, what's wrong?" "Hold on, I'm calling the hospital." With the absolute final threads of my failing physical strength, I reached up. I grabbed her wrist, stopping her from reaching for the telephone. Slowly, agonizingly, I raised my trembling, blood-stained index finger and pointed directly to the center of my forehead. There, pulsing violently in the dim, warm light of the bookstore, was the burning red number 10. Clara froze. She stared at the glowing red digits, her breath catching violently in her throat. In that terrifying, quiet instant, the horrific truth struck her like a physical blow. The mysterious illness of my childhood, my lifelong silence, the strange seizures, why I had never spoken a word to anyone, and why I had stood paralyzed and mute on that rainy afternoon in 1978. The entire tragic, agonizing puzzle of my life shattered and reassembled before her eyes. She realized that every word I had ever kept inside was a desperate fight to stay alive, and she realized what coming here today truly meant. "Oh God, ... Clara whispered, tears bursting from her eyes and spilling down her cheeks. She grabbed my coat, holding me close, her head shaking frantically in absolute terror. No, ... no. Arthur, no, don't do it. Don't you dare speak. Please, stay quiet. Don't waste them on me." I looked up into her tear-filled eyes, and for the first time in 60 years, a feeling of total, profound peace washed over me. The terrifying shadow of death was completely gone. I had not survived 40 years of torture and silence just to die a coward in the dark. I didn't have 100 words to fix the past, but I had 10 words to give her my entire soul. I forced my failing lungs to expand, drawing in one last deep breath, filling my chest with the scent of aged paper, winter wind, and her sweet lavender perfume. My vocal cords, frozen and stiff after decades of disuse, began to vibrate. The red light behind my forehead burned with an intense, molten heat, searing into my brain. I opened my lips. "Forgive me." A choked sob escaped Clara's throat as she clutched my hand tightly against her wet cheek. That day, I was a coward. A sickening, deafening crack echoed inside my ears like glass shattering in a quiet room. Total blackness invaded my peripheral vision. Crimson blood poured freely from my nose, dripping onto Clara's trembling hands and the hardwood floor. The red counter behind my eyes flickered wildly, dropping to 5. I forced my dying muscles to move. I refused to stop. I would not leave a single syllable behind in this world. And I gathered the very last embers of my fading life force to deliver the sacred truth. I had locked away in the darkest corner of my heart for 40 long winters. I always loved you. The universe exploded into a blinding, pure white pain. The counter screamed violently as it hit the number 1. My strength vanished completely. My body went limp, collapsing fully into Clara's arms. She pulled me tight against her chest, crying uncontrollably, pressing her forehead against mine, her warm tears falling onto my face. With my very last drop of blood, with the absolute final tremor of my soul, I leaned close to her ear and whispered the final sound of my existence. Goodbye. The burning red digits in my mind shattered into infinite dust and vanished into the darkness. The agonizing, searing pain in my head dissolved. A deep, miraculous, eternal silence washed over my spirit. My vocal cords will never move again. The hourglass of my voice is completely and utterly empty. Yet, as my breath fades away in the warmth of Clara's embrace, I feel no fear, no pain, and no regret.
Your support helps us create more immersive storytelling audiobooks. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. Until next time, stay tuned.